The Grand Hall of the Galactic Unity Conference buzzed with activity. Hundreds of alien species from across the Milky Way gathered here once every decade. They came to discuss trade, borders, and the balance of power in the galaxy. In one corner of the massive room stood Captain Sarah Chen. She was the sole human representative at this meeting. Sarah felt small next to the towering aliens around her. Some were twice her height, with extra limbs or glowing skin, but Sarah stood tall and proud in her crisp blue uniform. She approached a group of important-looking aliens. They were gathered around a holographic display of various spaceships. Sarah cleared her throat. "Excuse me," she said politely. "I'm Captain Chen of Earth. I'd like to present our fleet for consideration in the Mutual Defense Pact." The aliens turned to look at her. Some blinked their many eyes in surprise. Others let out sounds that might have been chuckles. A tall, purple-skinned alien with 4 arms stepped forward. "Ah, the human," he said. His voice was deep and rumbling. "I am Supreme Commander Zix of the Voltan Imperium. Please, show us your fleet." Sarah nodded and tapped her wrist computer. A small hologram appeared, showing Earth's newest warships. They were sleek and compact, much smaller than the massive alien vessels on display. There was a moment of silence. Then the room erupted in laughter. "Are those toys?" asked a blob-like alien, its body rippling with amusement. "Perhaps they are food replicators," suggested another, this one covered in metallic scales. Supreme Commander Zix raised one of his 4 hands for quiet. He looked down at Sarah, all 6 of his eyes blinking slowly. "Captain Chen," he said, trying to keep a straight face. "Surely this is a joke. These cannot be your actual warships." Sarah felt her cheeks grow hot. She took a deep breath, reminding herself to stay calm. "I assure you, Commander, these are our latest defensive craft. They may be smaller than what you're used to, but—" "Small," interrupted a new voice. A being that looked like a giant praying mantis stepped into the circle. "They're not small, they're microscopic. What are you going to do? Launch them at our enemies through a straw?" This set off another round of laughter. Sarah clenched her fists at her sides, willing herself not to show anger. Now," said Supreme Commander Zix, though he was clearly amused. "Let's not be too harsh on our little friends from Earth. I'm sure these vessels are very impressive. For humans." He patted Sarah on the head with one of his lower hands. She stiffened at the condescending gesture, but said nothing. "Perhaps," Zix continued, addressing the crowd, "we can find some use for them. They might make excellent scout ships or escape pods for the children." More laughter filled the air. Sarah felt her face burning with embarrassment and anger. She wanted to tell them about the advanced technology packed into those small ships, about the AI-driven nanosystems that made them more powerful than anything these aliens could imagine. But she had her orders. Earth's true capabilities were to remain secret. So instead, she forced a smile. "Thank you for your consideration, Commander. I'm sure we can find a way to contribute to galactic security." Zix nodded, already turning his attention back to the other aliens. Yes. Run along now, little human. The adults have important matters to discuss." Sarah walked away, her head held high despite the snickers that followed her. She made her way to a quiet corner of the hall, where she activated her secure communicator. "Control, this is Chen," she said quietly. "You were right. They're not taking us seriously at all." A voice crackled back. "Understood, Captain. Continue as planned. Let them underestimate us. Soon, they'll learn just how wrong they were." Sarah ended the transmission and looked back at the gathering of alien diplomats. They had already forgotten about her, lost in their discussions of grand fleets and planet-destroying weapons. "Laugh all you can," Sarah muttered to herself. A small, determined smile played on her lips. "You have no idea what's coming." The Galactic Unity Conference continued for several days. Captain Sarah Chen watched from the sidelines as the alien races discussed their grand plans. But on the 4th day, everything changed. A loud alarm blared through the conference hall. The holographic displays flickered and changed. They now showed a massive fleet of ships entering the galaxy's outer rim. Panic spread through the room. Alien diplomats rushed to their communication devices, calling for updates. Supreme Commander Zix's voice boomed over the chaos. "Silence. We have an emergency transmission." The main screen lit up. On it appeared a terrifying sight. The alien was tall and skeletal, with black, oil-like skin and glowing red eyes. When it spoke, its voice was like metal scraping on stone. "Greetings, insects," the creature said. "I am High Commander Vexcor of the Zarthak Empire. Your pitiful galaxy now belongs to us. Surrender or be destroyed." The transmission ended. The room erupted in frightened chatter. Sarah's communicator buzzed. She answered it quietly. "Chen here." "Captain," came the voice of her superior. "It's happening. The Zarthak invasion we predicted. Are the other races prepared?" Sarah looked around the room. She saw fear and confusion on alien faces. "Negative, sir. They're in panic mode." "Understood. Stay alert. This is where our plan begins." The call ended. Sarah turned her attention back to the main gathering. Supreme Commander Zix was trying to restore order. "Calm yourselves," he shouted. "We must unite against this threat. We will combine our fleets and—" "It won't be enough," cried a jellyfish-like alien. Its tentacles waved wildly. "The Zarthak ships outnumber us 10 to 1. "Then we'll call for reinforcements," Zix insisted. "Every race must contribute. We'll build the largest fleet the galaxy has ever seen." The aliens began arguing about ship numbers and battle tactics. Sarah listened carefully, noting their strategies. Suddenly, a thin, green alien pointed at her. "What about the humans? Surely they can spare their toy ships for our cause." All eyes turned to Sarah. She stepped forward, keeping her face neutral. "Earth stands ready to assist in any way we can," she said calmly. Supreme Commander Zix laughed. "That's very brave of you, Captain. But I'm afraid this is a matter for real warships. Your little vessels would only get in the way." Several aliens nodded in agreement. "Yes, best if the humans sit this one out," said another. "For their own safety, of course." Sarah opened her mouth to protest, but Zix cut her off. "It's decided then. Captain Chen, we thank you for your offer, but Earth's participation won't be necessary. You're dismissed from the War Council." Anger flashed in Sarah's eyes, but she quickly controlled it. She gave a stiff nod and walked out of the room. As the door closed behind her, she heard the aliens resume their frantic planning. In the hallway, Sarah activated her communicator again. "Control," Chen reporting. "It's as we expected. They've excluded us from the defense plans." "Good," came the reply. "Return to your ship immediately. Operation Tiny Fleet is now in effect." Sarah smiled to herself as she hurried through the station. The aliens had no idea what was coming. Meanwhile, in the conference room, the situation was getting worse. Reports were coming in of Zarthak ships destroying outer colonies. The alien leaders argued about where to send their forces. "We need more time to gather our fleets," Zix was saying. "We must delay the Zarthak advance." "How?" demanded the jellyfish alien. "Our border patrols are being swatted like flies." As they debated, none of them noticed the small alert on a secondary screen. It showed a group of tiny signatures leaving the station at high speed. If anyone had been paying attention, they might have wondered why Earth's insignificant ships were in such a hurry to leave. But the aliens were too busy with their own plans. They had forgotten about the humans entirely. Little did they know, humanity's moment was about to arrive, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the command chair of her ship, the EFS Defiant. It was small compared to the alien vessels, but packed with technology beyond their wildest dreams. Around her, the bridge crew worked silently, preparing for their mission. "Status report," Sarah ordered. Her second-in-command, Lieutenant Park, responded quickly. "All systems green, Captain. The fleet is ready." Sarah nodded. She opened a channel to the other ships. "This is Captain Chen. Operation Tiny Fleet is go. Remember your training. Today, we show the galaxy what humans can do." Acknowledgements came from the other captains. Sarah took a deep breath, engaged cloaking systems, and set course for the Zarthak front. Maximum speed. The stars outside blurred as the human fleet jumped to faster-than-light travel. They moved silently, invisible to both the panicking aliens and the invading Zarthak forces. Hours later, they arrived at the edge of a massive space battle. Huge Zarthak ships were tearing through the hastily assembled alien defense fleet. Debris and explosions filled the void. Tactical analysis, Sarah commanded. Lieutenant Park studied his screens. The Zarthak have superior numbers and firepower. The Allied aliens are losing badly. At this rate, they'll be wiped out in less than an hour. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Not if we have anything to say about it. Prepare for attack pattern Omega and activate the nanoswarms. A low hum filled the ship as billions of microscopic robots came to life. These were humanity's secret weapon, swarms of nanobots that could reshape matter at the atomic level. "All ships report nanoswarms active," said Lieutenant Park, "awaiting your command." Sarah stood up, her face set with determination. Disengage cloaking. All ships, attack. The human fleet shimmered into view, right in the middle of the battle. For a moment, both sides paused in surprise at the tiny ships that had appeared. Then Sarah gave the order. Release the nanoswarms. Streams of silvery particles erupted from the human ships, heading towards the massive Zarthak vessels. The enemy, not understanding the threat, ignored the seemingly harmless clouds. That was their mistake. The nanoswarms enveloped the Zarthak ships. In seconds, the tiny robots began their work. They ate through hull plating, disassembled weapons, and reprogrammed computer systems. Alarms blared on the Zarthak vessels as systems failed. Weapons went offline. Engines sputtered and died. Some ships began to break apart, their very structure dissolving. The Allied aliens watched in amazement as the fearsome Zarthak fleet was reduced to floating junk in minutes. "Second wave incoming," reported Lieutenant Park. "Zarthak reinforcements." Sarah nodded. "Recall and recharge nanoswarms. Prepare for round 2. As the human fleet maneuvered, a transmission came through. It was Supreme Commander Zix, his many eyes wide with shock. "Captain Chen," he exclaimed. "What? How? Those can't be your ships." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Oh, but they are, Commander. Earth's tiny fleet at your service." But how is this possible?" Zix stammered. "That's classified," Sarah replied. "Now, if you'll excuse us, we have an invasion to stop." She cut the transmission as the next wave of Zarthak ships arrived. Once again, the human fleet unleashed its nanoswarms. Once again, the massive enemy vessels fell to pieces. Hours passed. Wave after wave of Zarthak ships arrived, only to be destroyed by the seemingly invincible human fleet. The Allied aliens, recovering from their shock, began to rally and join the fight. Finally, the attack slowed, then stopped. The Zarthak were retreating. Cheers erupted across the human ships. But Sarah remained focused. "Stand down to yellow alert. Begin nanoswarm recovery. And get me a secure line to Earth Command." As her crew carried out her orders, Sarah stared out at the starfield. The battle was won, but the war was just beginning. And now, the whole galaxy knew about humanity's power. "Well," she muttered to herself, "I guess the secret's out. Things are about to get very interesting." The news of the human fleet's victory spread across the galaxy like wildfire. In the days that followed, Captain Sarah Chen found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. The Defiant docked at a massive space station near the battle site. As Sarah stepped off her ship, she was greeted by a crowd of alien diplomats. Their attitudes had changed dramatically since the conference. Supreme Commander Zix pushed his way to the front. All 6 of his eyes blinked rapidly as he spoke. Captain Chen, your timing was most fortunate. We are, of course, grateful for Earth's assistance. Sarah nodded politely. We're glad we could help, Commander. The Zarthak threat concerns us all. A tall insectoid alien stepped forward. But how? It chittered excitedly. How did your tiny ships defeat such a massive force? Before Sarah could answer, more questions poured in from the gathered aliens. Was that some kind of disintegration beam? Are your ships made of living metal? Can you teach us this technology? Sarah raised her hands for quiet. I understand you all have questions, but the specifics of our technology are classified. What I can say is that humanity has been preparing for threats like the Zarthak for a long time. The aliens murmured among themselves. Some looked impressed, others suspicious. Zix spoke up again. Well, Captain, it seems we misjudged Earth's capabilities. Perhaps we should discuss your planet's role in the ongoing conflict. Agreed, said Sarah. But first, I need to consult with my superiors. As if on cue, Sarah's communicator beeped. Excuse me, she said to the aliens. She stepped aside to take the call. Chen here. The voice of Fleet Admiral Yvonne Takashi came through. Good work out there, Captain. You've put humanity on the galactic map. Thank you, Admiral. What are my orders now? The situation has evolved rapidly, Takashi explained. The Galactic Council is calling an emergency session. They'd want Earth to take a leading role in the war effort. Sarah's eyebrows rose. That's quite a change from a few days ago. Indeed, we're sending a full diplomatic team. But we need you there too, Sarah. You've become the face of humanity to the galaxy. Understood, Admiral. I'll do my best. I know you will. Oh, and Sarah, be careful. We've made a big splash, and not everyone will be happy about it. Watch your back. The call ended. Sarah turned back to the waiting aliens, her mind racing. Everything was changing so fast. All right, she announced. I've received new orders. Earth will be sending representatives to the Galactic Council session. The aliens broke into excited chatter. Zix stepped closer to Sarah. Excellent news, Captain. We have much to discuss. Perhaps you'd like to review our latest intelligence on the Zarthak. As Zix led her towards a briefing room, Sarah noticed something odd. A small, shadowy figure was watching her from a distant corner. When it saw her looking, it quickly disappeared. Sarah frowned. Admiral Takashi's warning echoed in her mind. She would indeed need to watch her back. The next few hours were a blur of meetings and briefings. Sarah learned that the Zarthak had pulled back to regroup, but everyone expected them to return with an even larger force. As she pored over star charts and battle plans, Sarah couldn't help but feel the weight of responsibility on her shoulders. Earth had revealed its strength, but at what cost? They were now a major player in a galactic war. Late that night, as Sarah finally headed to her temporary quarters, she heard a sound behind her. She spun around, her hand going to her sidearm. But the corridor was empty. Sarah's eyes narrowed. Someone or something was watching her. The game had changed, and not just on the battlefield. Politics, secrets, and who knew what else were now in play. As she entered her room, Sarah made a silent vow. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them. For her crew, for Earth, and for the fate of the galaxy. Little did she know, the greatest tests were yet to come. The Galactic Council chamber was a sight to behold. Thousands of alien representatives sat in tiered seats, surrounding a central platform. Captain Sarah Chen stood on this platform, feeling the weight of countless eyes upon her. Next to her stood Ambassador Liam O'Neill, Earth's chief diplomat. His weathered face was calm, but Sarah could sense his tension. Supreme Commander Zix gavelled the session to order. We face an unprecedented crisis, he announced. The Zarthak Empire threatens us all. But thanks to the unexpected assistance of Earth, we have hope. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Sarah noticed not all the sounds were friendly. Zix continued, Captain Chen will now present Earth's proposal for a united defense strategy. Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding. This was it. Everything rode on this moment. Esteemed representatives, she began, her voice steady. The Zarthak are powerful, but not invincible. We've proven that. Now we must work together to drive them back. She activated a holographic display, showing a map of the galaxy. Earth proposes a three-pronged strategy. First, we form a united fleet, combining our ships with yours. Second, we establish a network of early warning stations. And third, we share certain defensive technologies to upgrade your vessels. The chamber erupted in excited chatter. But one voice cut through the noise. And what do you want in return, humans? The speaker was a tall, serpentine alien with gleaming scales. Ambassador O'Neill whispered to Sarah, "That's Shrek of the Viper Confederacy. Be careful." Sarah addressed Shrek directly. Earth asks only for equal partnership in the alliance. We face a common enemy. We must stand together. Shrek's forked tongue flicked out. Pretty words. But why should we trust you? You hid your true strength from us. What else are you hiding? Before Sarah could respond, another voice joined in. The human is right. This came from a small, furry alien. Without them, we'd already be defeated. I say we accept their offer. The chamber divided, some aliens shouting support, others voicing suspicion. Supreme Commander Zix pounded his gavel. Order. We will have order. As the noise died down, Sarah spoke again. I understand your concerns. Earth kept its capabilities secret because we feared exactly this kind of reaction. We didn't want to be seen as a threat. But now, facing the Zarthak, we must all lay our cards on the table. She paused, looking around the room. We're offering you our help. Not domination, not control, but partnership. Together, we can defeat the Zarthak. Divided, we'll fall one by one. A tense silence fell over the chamber. Sarah held her breath. Then, slowly, aliens began to stand. First a few, then dozens, then hundreds. They were applauding. Zix raised his hands for quiet. It seems the majority supports Earth's proposal. Unless there are any formal objections, I move we put it to a vote. Shrek and a few others grumbled, but didn't object. The vote was quickly taken. The proposal passes, Zix announced. Earth will lead our united defense against the Zarthak. As the chamber broke into excited discussion, Ambassador O'Neill shook Sarah's hand. Well done, Captain. You've just changed the course of galactic history. Sarah allowed herself a small smile, but as she looked around, she caught sight of Shrek. The serpentine alien was watching her with cold, calculating eyes. The next few hours were a whirlwind of planning sessions and treaty signings. Earth was now officially at the head of a galactic alliance. As the day ended, Sarah finally had a moment alone. She stood by a large window, looking out at the stars. So much had changed so quickly. A sound made her turn. In the reflection of the window, she saw a shadowy figure ducking out of sight. Sarah's hand went to her communicator. Security, this is Captain Chen. I need a sweep of level 47, Section C possible intruder. As she waited for a response, Sarah's mind raced. They'd won a great victory today. But the real challenges were just beginning. The Zarthak would return, stronger than ever. And not everyone in the alliance could be trusted. Sarah squared her shoulders. Whatever came next, she would be ready. The fate of Earth, and now the entire galaxy, depended on it. The united fleet hung in space like a swarm of fireflies. Thousands of ships from dozens of alien races, all gathered for one purpose: to face the Zarthak Empire's final assault. At the center of this armada was the ESS Defiant. On its bridge, Captain Sarah Chen stood before a holographic display of the battlefield. Her face was grim but determined. "Status report," she ordered. Lieutenant Park answered quickly. "All ships in position, Captain. The Zarthak fleet will be here in 10 minutes. Sarah nodded. "And our secret weapon?" The upgraded nanoswarms are ready, Park confirmed. All Allied ships have been equipped with launchers. Just then, a communication came through. It was Supreme Commander Zix, his many eyes blinking nervously. "Captain Chen," he said, "are you certain this plan will work? The Zarthak numbers are overwhelming." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "It will work, Commander. We've come too far to fail now." As if on cue, alarms blared across the fleet. The enemy had arrived. The view screen lit up with a terrifying sight. Tens of thousands of Zarthak ships, stretching as far as the eye could see. At their center was a massive vessel, easily 10 times the size of any other ship in either fleet. "By the stars," someone whispered. Sarah's voice cut through the fear. "All ships, battle formations. Remember your training. We can do this." The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. Lasers, missiles, and stranger weapons filled the void. Ships on both sides began to explode. "Launch nanoswarms," Sarah commanded. From every Allied ship, clouds of microscopic robots streamed out. They raced towards the Zarthak vessels, ready to tear them apart from the inside. But something was wrong. "Captain," Lieutenant Park shouted, "the nanoswarms. They're not working." Sarah's blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" "The Zarthak ships are unaffected." It's like they knew what was coming. Horrified realization dawned on Sarah's face. They've adapted. Someone must have warned them. The battle was turning into a slaughter. Without the nanoswarms, the Allied fleet was outgunned and outnumbered. "All ships, fall back," Sarah ordered. "Regroup at Point Beta." As the fleet retreated, the massive Zarthak flagship moved forward. A transmission came through on all channels. The face that appeared was familiar, the skeletal features of High Commander Vexcor. But now he was smiling, a terrifying sight. "Did you really think your little tricks would work twice?" He sneered. "Your defeat is inevitable. Surrender now, and perhaps we'll be merciful." Sarah cut the transmission. Her mind raced, searching for a solution. "Options," she demanded. Her crew looked at each other helplessly. The situation seemed hopeless. Then, a crazy idea struck Sarah. It was risky, perhaps suicidal, but it might be their only chance. "Lieutenant Park," she said, "prep the Defiant for a jump. We're going to take out their flagship." Park's eyes widened. "But Captain, at this range, the jump could tear us apart." "It's a risk we have to take," Sarah replied. She opened a channel to the fleet. "All ships, this is Captain Chen. Prepare for a fighting retreat. Keep the Zarthak occupied." She turned to her bridge crew. "This is volunteer only. Anyone who wants to stay behind can transfer to another ship." Not a single person moved. Sarah felt a surge of pride. "All right then. Helm, plot a course straight for the Zarthak flagship, engines at maximum." The Defiant broke away from the main fleet, streaking towards the massive enemy ship. "They'd noticed us," Park reported. "Enemy fighters incoming." Sarah gripped her chair. "Evasive maneuvers. Get us as close as you can. Then initiate the jump." The ship rocked with weapons impacts. Alarms blared as systems failed. "Now," Sarah shouted. There was a moment of impossible stillness. Then the universe seemed to twist. The Defiant vanished in a flash of light, reappearing inside the Zarthak flagship's shields. "All weapons, fire," Sarah commanded. The human ship unleashed everything it had. At this range, every shot was devastating. As explosions rocked the massive Zarthak vessel, Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Win or lose, the Zarthak would remember this day, and they would never again underestimate the tiny fleet of humanity. The dust of battle had settled, and an eerie calm spread across the galaxy. The Zarthak Empire's final assault had been repelled, thanks to Captain Sarah Chen's daring maneuver. The destruction of the enemy flagship had thrown the Zarthak forces into chaos, allowing the United Fleet to claim a hard-fought victory. Now, weeks later, representatives from every allied race gathered on Earth. It was a historic moment, the first time so many alien species had set foot on humanity's homeworld. The United Nations Assembly Hall had been transformed for the occasion. Alien diplomats of all shapes and sizes filled the seats, their translators buzzing as they conversed excitedly. At the center of it all stood Sarah Chen, no longer in her captain's uniform, but dressed in formal diplomatic attire. She still felt out of place in these political settings, but her actions had made her a symbol of Earth's new role in the galaxy. Supreme Commander Zix approached her, all six of his eyes blinking in what Sarah had learned was a sign of respect. "Captain Chen," he said, "or should I say, Ambassador Chen, your promotion is well deserved." Sarah nodded, still uncomfortable with her new title. "Thank you, Commander, but I'm just one part of a much larger effort." "Indeed," Zix agreed, "which is why we're all here today. The galaxy will never be the same after what we've been through." The assembly was called to order. Earth's Secretary-General took the podium, her voice ringing out across the hall. "Distinguished representatives," she began, "we gather here to forge a new path. The Zarthak threat showed us the power of unity. Now, we must decide how to move forward together." Debates raged for hours. Some races pushed for a tight military alliance. Others wanted to focus on cultural exchange and scientific cooperation. Through it all, Sarah listened carefully, occasionally offering insights from her experiences. As the day wore on, a consensus began to emerge. The galaxy needed more than just a defensive pact. It needed a new order, one that could prevent future conflicts and foster cooperation. Finally, it was Sarah's turn to speak. She stood at the podium, facing the assembled representatives of 100 worlds. "Friends," she said, her voice steady, "we've seen the best and worst of each other these past months. We've faced extinction and emerged stronger. Now we have a choice to make." She paused, looking around the room. "We can return to our old ways, to suspicion and isolation, or we can embrace this opportunity to build something greater than any one of our civilizations could achieve alone." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. "I propose we establish a galactic council," Sarah continued, "not just for defense, but for cooperation in all areas. Science, culture, trade. Together, we can reach heights we've only dreamed of." The hall erupted in applause. Even those who had been skeptical of Earth's sudden rise to prominence found themselves nodding in agreement. As the details were hammered out, a new era of galactic civilization took shape. Earth, once dismissed as a backwater world with a tiny fleet, now stood at the center of a new interstellar community. Hours later, as the historic first session of the Galactic Council concluded, Sarah stood by a window, looking out at the New York skyline. The city glittered with lights, but now she could see alien ships moving among the skyscrapers, a sign of the new reality. Ambassador O'Neill joined her, a tired but satisfied smile on his face. "Well, Sarah, you've done it. Earth is no longer alone in the universe." Sarah nodded, her expression thoughtful. "It's amazing how much has changed. Just a few months ago, they were laughing at our ships, and now they're following our lead." O'Neill chuckled. "You should be proud." "I am," Sarah said, "but I'm also a little scared. We have so much responsibility now. The whole galaxy is watching us." O'Neill put a hand on her shoulder. "That's why they need people like you, Sarah. People who understand the weight of that responsibility." As they talked, neither noticed the small, shadowy figure watching from a distant rooftop. The figure raised a communication device. "Report to base," it said in a low voice. "The humans have exceeded all expectations. Recommend moving to Phase 2 of the observation." The figure vanished into the night, leaving no trace. The galaxy might be at peace, but new mysteries and challenges were just beginning. Sarah Chen looked up at the stars, now filled with possibility and promise. Whatever came next, Earth and its allies would face it together. The era of the tiny fleet was over. A new chapter in galactic history had begun.